Well, let's move on to a different story about a different type of climate denial. So, on our show, we've actually talked about how the Obama administration has actually cleared Shell to drill up in the Arctic, despite the fact that Obama again and again and again gives really, really nice speeches on climate change. He actually went up to Alaska and gave really, really nice speeches on the dangers of climate change, simultaneously while approving drilling up in the Arctic. I guess let's talk about some of the supposed excuses that Barack Obama and Secretary of State John Kerry are making when they're saying that climate change is horrible while still opening up the Arctic for drilling.
Yeah, so this has been a big kind of thorn in the side of a lot of environmentalists and activists that want to love Obama and want to love the Obama administration and what they've been doing and kind of the progress that they've been making on tackling climate change in a lot of really visible ways. I'm thinking Clean Power Plan, I'm thinking Waters of the United States Act, is it just expanding or redefining, I guess, the Clean Water Act and really, taking kind of visible hardline stances, would seem to support an environmentalist and climate-aware agenda, while at the same time opening up the Arctic for drilling, but basically approving leases that Shell has had in the Arctic to drill some wells out in the Chukchi Sea, which is about 40 miles off the northwest coast of Alaska. And a lot of people have kind of cried, hypocrite to Obama and the Obama administration because, how can you, with one hand, sign these sweeping, regulations on coal-fired power plants? How can you make, vehicle emission standards, be really active in those areas, and then at the same time, seemingly with the other hand, allow this oil company with a fairly nefarious track record of following or having good environmental regulations in place and then following those regulations to drill in an area that is both very environmentally important for a number of fisheries, for a number of indigenous communities up there that still depend on the subsistence lifestyle, and also, just in terms of allowing these fossil fuel reserves that studies have shown need to stay in the ground if we want to have any chance at remaining below 2 degrees Celsius. How are you going to let that come out? And so the administration has been pretty hardline in defending their stance. As one can imagine, they're not going to, say, oops, we made a total mistake, you're right, this is hypocritical of that. And so they've offered a number of reasonings. And I think the most salient and the one that they come back to the most is that we're not instantly going to wean ourselves off of fossil fuels. We're going to still, in the coming decades, be at least partially dependent on fossil fuels as an energy source. And if that's the way that society is going to be, and if that's, just the kind of the way that we see the trend going, the Arctic is going to be an appealing place for oil and gas companies to want to develop. There's the huge, vast, untapped resources in the Arctic, and they're only going to become more, kind of like a sad catch-22 of climate change, that they're only going to become more available, really, as the climate changes, as the Arctic warms up, as the ice starts to recede more. Those are going to become more available. So what the administration has been saying is, look, we're going to need fossil fuels. People are going to still be drilling here. At least we can put in the most stringent regulations that we can possibly make to ensure that if drilling has to happen, which we believe it does, it'll at least be done in the most environmentally friendly way possible. So that's the line that Obama took in April or May when he went on his first Twitter chat and he had people asking questions about climate change. That's the line that Secretary Kerry took in a recent interview with the Huffington Post. It's really sort of been their argument is that we can't stop it, so we might as well regulate it as best as we can, because who knows if we left it open to the next administration, who knows what sort of regulations they would put in place. Whether or not you buy that is a different story, but that's been their line.
I know we're talking over the phone, but you can't. I don't think. Just to convey, while you've been describing this, I've been shaking my head a lot. My blood pressure has been rising quite a bit. I don't buy that in any way, shape, or form. It is unbelievably infuriating and unbelievably hypocritical. And again, I say this all the time about Obama. This is the biggest tragedy of his presidency, because he's someone who at least he says he gets it. He says all this important stuff. He says all these great things about climate. And again, if you actually believe in science and believe in what the scientists say, there is no way we can drill in the Arctic and keep it under 2 degrees. There is no way. If that oil comes out, we're doomed. And so for him to go around and make these big speeches while at the same time just being, oh yeah, we still have to get the oil out. It's like, oh yeah, climate change is horrible, but we still have to make the climate worse. It's so hypocritical and so infuriating. And again, it's just like we need someone who's just an adult and be like, no, this stuff needs to stay in the ground. But of course, that's not something that Obama's going to do. It's not something John Kerry, as Secretary of State's going to do. It really is just heartbreaking watching this whole thing take place.